My name is Megan Mansour, and I'm one of the programmers of Getting Real. I have black hair and light skin, and I'm wearing the brightest jacket I own because I am presenting Kirsten Johnson. Kirsten, as many of you know, Kirsten Johnson is a filmmaker and a cinematographer. Her film Dick Johnson Is Dead won awards at Sundance and the Emmys. Her camera work has been featured in films that have won at the Academy Awards and Cannes. She's thinking and making films about what it means to make images and the ethical challenges of making documentary film. Also about how artificial intelligence has fundamentally changed every person's relationship to image making and image intake. And besides being an incredibly talented filmmaker and a great intellect, I can't talk about Kirsten without mentioning her warmth and brilliant style. Thank you so much, Kirsten.
Okay, I can feel my heart beating. And I am so honored to be in the room with all of you. And we are sharing this moment in time and space with some people who are connected to us through a camera. I imagine that perhaps this camera would be held by a person. And this camera is actually being directed by Mark up there. Mark, I'm going to try not to block Jamie's capacity to be seen. And I would like you to zoom as close as you can to my eye, please. How's it going? I have no idea what the image looks like. Pretty good? Okay, so I just made eye contact with the future. And I am now going to move through the crowd and make eye contact with as many of you as I can before I come and stay here for a moment. So I'm going to do some verbal descriptions, some emotional descriptions, some physical descriptions. The images on the screen, to the extent that I was not involved in their making, I tried to identify their sources, and I tried to make as many things with my hands and my eyes as I could. So I am a tall, some would say male-adjacent person, and that's been important to the camera work life that I have had. And I've got sneakers on that were hand-painted, and I'm now just going to move up through and take a look at all of you, and I invite you all to look back at me as I go. I would now like to just thank you all for being here, and as I track and see friends, I feel better. I see Dominic here. Dominic is leading this institution at a time in which it is challenging to lead institutions. We support you. We applaud your courage. We need your vision. We also support your team. We support Abby, who's brought together this incredible program for all of us. I'm twisting around to look at Megan, who brought me into this, and very grateful to her. I'm looking, so many good faces in the crowd. I'm seeing people who are old friends who I've known for 30 years. I'm seeing people who are not friends yet. I have high hopes. And I'm looking for Laura, who's been just exceptional. Oh yeah, don't block the fire lane. I can't get through. I'm coming through. Laura, who's making all these connections with people, the IDA volunteers. Look at the whole tech crew back here. Scott, Mark, right? They're making it happen. I'm moving through the crowd. I'm running into Vanessa here, and I actually asked Michael to stand in front of you to show you what it looks like to be a person holding a camera. I'm going to ask Vanessa, go on down, Vanessa. I invite you to go down. Looking. Oh, I love how everyone's twisting. Does anyone have a bottle of water? Yes. Oh, that was quick. My mouth is dry. Thank you so much. What's your name? Eliana just gave me her water. Okay, so I'm moving through the crowd. I'm looking at all of you. I would also like to thank the Shorenstein Fellowship at Harvard. Sarah and Enrique, and I'm also going to thank more friends. I'm going to thank the people who helped me in this fall doing this research, Cy and John. And I'm coming down, I'm coming in. And you think that's the end of all of us moving physically. No. Let's see. Technology, my friend, not my friend. Technology, my friend. So these 4 words, bodies, time, stakes, images. I've been in the world of holding cameras for 35 years, and I find that these are the words that come to me every day when I film or when I am being filmed. So, what meaning will we make of our bodies here together and there, inside the camera, inside the future, in this time together, in this space together? And what are the known stakes of this moment? And what are the still not known stakes of this moment? And that is all of our relationship to the future. We're very clear about the now and how full of pain and difficulty it is. And we're all trying to grapple in our own ways, in our own bodies, with our outrage at pain being inflicted on others and our compassion for the humans who are attempting to find their way in this time. So look at me. That's me. So visual descriptions, some things people whose eyes don't work in a physical way, they can still see things about other humans. Some of us can physically see and see the outside of each other, right? I put this drawing on the screen. I made it, I think, when I'm like 4 or 5. So what you are seeing is my past, which is inside of me, my love of color, which seems to be connected, right? So the colors we're talking about, of course, are orange, yellow, red, green, blue. I could go on. I'm going to jump to just a year or so later when clearly I'm aware that others see the outside of me, right? And you can see that in many ways there's a connection. So, bodies. We all have them. We each have a different one. And what we're going to do now is make eye contact with each other. So, for those of you who can stand, I'm going to ask you to stand. For those of you who cannot stand, I would like someone to come to you. You're going to turn to a person, and we're just going to be close, like an elbow's width away from each other, and we're going to look into each other's eyes for a minute. Got a problem with that? Okay, so what I need from everyone, okay, I need Abby in the house. Okay, this is going to be really hard with this crew because I know you all have a lot of things to say. I'm going to need a silence for a minute. Silence It's going to be silence for a minute. Abby, hello. I was going to do it with Jamie, but I want to everybody get in here. I want to do it with Abby. Someone do it with Jamie. Will someone help us to time? Who's going to do it? Who's going to help us? Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Okay, is everybody ready? So breathe. You're going to try to be quiet for a minute. Okay? And if we're, I might go for 2 minutes. We're going to go for a minute. Okay, let us all begin. Silence. We love that sound. Woo! Okay, everybody can sit down. Woo! Thank you. Woo! You're all cute. You're all cute. You got a lot to say to each other. A lot. Okay, so who felt time expand? Did time expand for you? Can someone say a word about what it felt like to be looked at? Shout it out. Exposing? Uncomfortable. Vulnerable. Nostalgia. Silly, understood. Safe. Care. Compassion. Can someone say some words, or many of you say one word, about what it was like to look at the other person? Nervous. Connected. Funny. Silly. Fun. Afraid to blink. Love it. Love it. Anything else? Childlike. Connected. All right. Settle down. So, in this drawing of Unbroken Eye Contact, the musical, it's reviewed as invasive, unsettling, and too long. So one thing you might have noticed was that it was challenging to look with both eyes at both eyes of the other person. How many of you know which is your dominant eye? Okay, so for those of you who don't, you have one eye that is dominant. So stretch out your arm. Align your finger with something vertical. Can you see through your finger to the vertical line? Now close one eye. Does your finger stay and become solid, or does it jump to the side? Okay, so if your finger stays on the line when your left eye is open, that's your dominant eye, and it's not aligned with your... Everybody got it? So this used to matter. This used to matter when camera people looked in eyepieces, but now we look at screens, so it doesn't matter at all. But I love it. Keep it going. Y'all just keep talking. One thing that we understand from doing this is that vision is a construct. It's not just that our films are constructs. Vision itself is a construct, and that our mind is doing work to bring these two disparate images together and create three-dimensionality, and I would argue multi-dimensionality, time-space dimensionality. So the question is, what's inside of us? Is that visible from the outside when we look at another person? What are we projecting? What are we speculating? What clues are we seeing? And what can we see of time looking at another person? So time is inside of us, and time is personal to us. Check it out. These are dates. Turns out in April 17, 1929, my mother was born. It's her birthday. Woo! My mother would have been 95 today. She died in 2007, but she gave birth to me on October 12, 1965. Anybody know what a colonialist conquest day that is? Columbus Day. I'm born, and April 17, 2024, here we are in the present together. So what are we going to make of it? We're going to try to bring some new meaning to the words time, bodies, images, stakes. So what do we do when we create our films? We create timelines, right? And it's order that we bring to what matters to us. So here's some ways of ordering. We know that different cultures read in different directions. Some left to right, some right to left, some up and down, some backwards and forwards. Some people see the past in front of them and the future behind them. But these concepts organize our lives and also often organize our films. But of course, on the timeline, we start to scramble time, right? Sometimes when we're working on films, we occupy different spaces, so spaces of time. So I would say a camera person is often very encouraged to be in the present, to be aware that the green light is on or the red light is on. And when that light is on, we know that what we are filming has stakes and it's going into the future. Directors are often thinking about the future of the film. They're also in the present, but the sort of hyper attentiveness to the present is what's being demanded of camera people in particular. And then editors are often given the material that was filmed in the past and finding ways to reorder it, right? And all of us in our fantasies about what the future will bring often miss the play that's in the room, the rabbit that's in the room, who wanted me to pay attention to him instead of preparing this talk. So I draw myself ideas, and they help me think about what we're doing. So I drew this. I put an eye sideways, identified as the moment of filming, identified as the present. And from this moment forward, images begin. They go into the future. Bodies, my body, the bodies of people who are filmed, your bodies. I hate to break it to us. At some point, this will happen, right? And the fact is, we're in the present. We don't know what's coming. The people who are watching on the live stream webinar don't know what's happening. But this is going to be recorded. And in the future, other people will see it, and maybe they'll know something that happened in the middle of this talk that none of the rest of us know. I'm hoping it's not my heart attack. So this is a drawing by Saul Steinberg, one of my favorite visual thinkers, and he thinks with drawing. And look at where now, the now flag is being held by a person who's stepping at the edge of a second, about to step into the void, but there'll be another second there to catch that person, right? And then look at this. Woo! Where does that go? My older brother is a paleobotanist. He studies fossil plants that are 32 million years old. And he would say that way is deep time. I would say in some ways we all have deep time inside of us. So I want to take a look at a timeline in relation to images, bodies, and stakes. Boom! 7 million years ago. This was not made 7 million years ago. But 7 million years ago, stretch my body out, right? It's that long. Well then, photography begins halfway at the end of my fingernail, right? Do you remember 7 million? So then along comes cameras, film cameras. I am confident that the humans and the human-like creatures, or all creatures maybe, in the 7 million years, drew things, made eyes in the sand, also looked at themselves in pools of water and saw reflections of themselves. But what happens with a camera, for the first time in this great long history, is those reflections in the surface of the water can be held and stay, right? So cameras are not alive. Bodies are alive. They can and will die. Are images immortal? We don't know this. Their staying power depends upon the format in which they have been preserved. Those reflections have been preserved. So what are the stakes of image making? Stakes come in many different forms and confront us with the most challenging aspects of our humanity. Do we know anything about that, people? So I made some categories, and I drew these things, and with every conversation that has happened in the last 2 days, thanks to the great curation of the IDA team, I was like, I gotta revise the category. I gotta add more words. I gotta take that out, right? I'm just gonna give you where I went before I heard all of you. So I'm gonna go through sets of categories of images and question marks about it. So images for profit. So labor, camera labor, I'm including the labor of being seen and seen. Whose labor is that? Risk-taking, hidden costs, compensation over time, costs revealed over time. Now I'm just gonna go somewhere no one expected me to go. Boom. Images of sex. I have no idea if the information I got in the internet was reliable or not. Anybody can guess what percentage of images on the internet have to do with images of bodies engaged in some form of sex? 95%. Anybody else? What I could find, it was shockingly low, 30 to 40%. Right? So here's another situation, in what's happening on the inside is different from what it looks like on the outside. Is that sex consensual, non-consensual? Somewhere in the continuum of that, are people doing it for profit, for other people to look at? All right, I'm going straight sex to death, because I do not mess around. This got extremely emotionally complicated to do, and I was ready to just rip this up and start all over again. But I left it as I wrote it. So I'm talking about images of violence, images of death, images of occupation, images of war. I'm going with so much more complicated than this, not to scale. Obviously not to scale, right? Who makes these images? Governments with cameras, perpetrators with cameras, victims with cameras, dissidents with cameras, soldiers with cameras, police with cameras, propagandists with cameras. It's very small, that one, for no reason. journalists with cameras, dissidents with cameras, activists with cameras, families with cameras, historians with cameras, victims with cameras, no camera, bystanders, no camera, victims, no camera, perpetrators with no camera, don't make images, right? Okay, it's a big spectrum and a very painful spectrum. So the accumulation of violence experienced, translated into images, accumulates over generations. There were some words that I thought to use, and I thought, no, I'm actually not going to use that word, because even to say that word evokes an image in our heads that hurts us, right? It's going to take a lot of water. So, time. Back to time, how we start to understand these things over time. Cinema is set up and reveal, right? So I need us to recognize the generations that we are occupying and that are occupying us from the past and this moment that we're in, and who came before us, what of them we carry forward, and the recognition of our current moment. You didn't think I was going here. This is how big the internet was in 1982. Okay? That's the smallness of the network. Thanks, Jamie, you're back. And people say the internet was born, it had its birthday on January 1. I took out the date, 1983. I was graduating from high school. I was given a typewriter as a present. Never used it. After graduating from high school, I went to Dakar, Senegal, and I met Senegalese men who fought for the French in World War I when Senegal was colonized. I was a 22-year-old, and at that time in Senegal, they did not have a national working telephone system. I wrote letters home to my parents. It took 3 weeks for the letters to go and to come. And I would say that I needed that time and distance from my parents. I was very grateful for that giant time span. So now, and this is a collage I made in 1983. So I was already a little obsessed at the time. There are 5.53 billion internet users worldwide. And we know that number is not as accurate as we need it to be, but imagine. The obsession with orange was in place at all times. That's my first cell phone. I always need a glimpse of Yinka Shonibare's library to bring me joy and perspective. I'm adding it to the date 2007, first iPhone was released. That is so 2 seconds ago. So the philosopher Byung-Chul Han is calling us phono sapiens. How many of you have one of these? Mine is plugged in because I never charge mine. Do I want it not to work? So how many of you sleep with the phone right next to your bed so you can get it as soon as you wake up? How many of you, if you walked out of this room and left your phone behind, you'd come right back? Yes, show of hands. So I would say it's my understanding in some ways that these devices augment our humanity, right? We have more access to knowledge. We can film. And it turns out there's more phones than people in the world right now. What? Yeah. What's that about? So back to bodies in my timeline. Here's a couple of students of mine who were taking photos with cell phones during the pandemic in 2019. So back to that early wondering, what do we see in each other's insides from looking at each other. The global pandemic showed us all kinds of ways that our insides and our outsides are connected that we didn't even begin to imagine. N'est-ce pas? It was a very painful time in the world, and we thought that we'd have a lot of perspective, and a lot of it sucked. So, time, bodies, stakes, images. What I'm going to show you is slightly embarrassing because it puts me at the center of all time. I'm only doing this because it is literally part of my perspective, and because what I want to provoke is your own timeline inside of yourself. So place yourself on this timeline. And so some of you are not yet born yet. 1983, the internet. I began filming in the late 80s, through the 90s, through 2000. So there are many professional camera people filming during this time. Who among you was filming during this time? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Those guys in the back, all of you. Did we even hit 20? Right? Okay. Tells you who's in the room. Future is in the room. So look at that, right? The beginning of video on the internet, beginning of streaming starts in 2002. All right? First iPhone's 2007. And from this point forward, we all have increasing capacity to watch. We all have increasing capacity to film, right? I'm a camera person in 2016. I make Dick Johnson is Dead in 2020. We're in the now. That's my timeline. Place yourself on it with me. We are canaries in a coal mine. And some of us have been breathing the dust a little longer, right? Because everyone in this room cares about bodies, time, stakes, images. Yes? Yes, right? So me and camera people and sound people, we worked really hard. And part of that was really extraordinary because we logged hours and hours and hours being in the present. And I'm going to quote the great Sherry Freelow. Sundance New Frontier. She uses the term biodigital continuum. So I would say that me, you 20 people in the room, sound person Wellington Bowler in the shot before, we've been on a biodigital continuum for 20 years longer than most of you in the room. And that's allowed things, and that's done other things, right? Which is part of some of what I explored in Camera Person. But I'm gonna walk you through how this works, the stakes of this thing. So I'm gonna take us back in time to 2001, when Michael Moore wanted to make a film about the US government's response to the attacks that happened on September 11. Michael wanted to find an active duty soldier who would be willing to go on camera in uniform. That was a hard thing to find at the time. I was a young camera person. I was standing in for a day, replacing the cinematographer Michael usually works with. And I want you to think about all these words, right? We're all people. We've got agency. We've got positions. We've got power. We're relational to each other. And yet all those things shift in unexpected ways, right? So Michael found Abdul Henderson, who was willing to show up on camera in his uniform. We stood on a street corner in Washington, D.C., and Michael asked Abdul what he wanted to say in his uniform. And I zoomed in on Abdul's face, and Abdul bit his lip for what seemed like a long time, kind of like when you looked into each other's eyes, time kind of expanded. And I just stared at Abdul biting his lip. And I had no idea what he was going to say. And Abdul said, "I refuse to go back to Iraq to be asked to kill more poor brown people." And I shook, and Michael said, "Turn the camera off." Michael had power in that moment. He was the director in the hierarchy of things. I should have listened to him, but Michael told me, don't turn off the camera when someone with power tells you to turn it off. I learned my lessons. And so I did not turn the camera off. Instead, I turned the camera towards Michael. And Michael said, "Abdul, do you want to say that on camera?" And what Michael understood and what Abdul understood, but I didn't understand at the time, was that what Abdul was doing was an act of resistance that could mean he be jailed, thrown out of the military, lose all of his benefits. It was very serious consequences. And Michael said, "Abdul, do you want to say that on camera? Because I will want to use that piece of footage." And Abdul said, "Yes." And then Michael said, "I'm going to get you a lawyer," which Michael did. So power. Michael had some access to lawyers, and then the film went to Cannes, and to everyone's surprise, it won the Camera d'Or. Much more surprising than that. Suspense. Just one of my tips as a camera person, this is the most important part of your toolkit, water. Abdul and his entire unit received a telegram from the US military after the film came out. What did that telegram say? That telegram said, "Abdul Henderson, you have a choice about whether you wish to redeploy to Iraq." How did that happen? Right? Some extreme risk-taking, some extreme principle, some extreme courage, right? And no knowledge of what might happen in the future, right? So years later, I was trying to grapple with all the things that I had been filming for 25 years, and I went to various directors that I had worked with, and I said, "May I please look at some of the footage that I recorded with you, and perhaps I will want to use it in this film." And I went to Michael, and he said, "Take anything you want." And I thought, what do I want? And suddenly, 15 years after filming it, I thought of Abdul biting his lip. I was like, did I imagine that? Why do I remember that? So this attentiveness that happened between all of you, where you looked into each other's eyes, trying to read clues in each other, right? That kind of attentiveness is what we do, and it goes into our bodies and stays with us. So I found the footage. Abdul did bite his lip. Michael did ask him if he wanted a lawyer. He did say what he said, and I put it in the film. 2016, I show a camera person in Washington, D.C., and Abdul comes to the screening. And we get up front, and I say, Abdul, I don't actually know why this moment matters so much to me, but I've been remembering you biting your lip for 15 years. And he was like, whoa, KJ, too much. And he said, do you know what happened in that moment? And I said, I do not know. I know something happened. And Abdul said, Muhammad Ali came to me. And I was listening to Muhammad Ali in my mind. And Muhammad Ali said, this is it, Abdul. This is your chance. This is your moment. What are you going to do with it? So I'm happy to say Abdul and I watched the solar eclipse together in 2017. Images are ongoing relationships between the people who made them and the people who see them as long as these images last. I texted with Abdul an hour before coming in here. His children are 18 and 20 years old. He's still alive. He didn't die in Iraq. He didn't kill more poor people in the name of the US government. And I asked Abdul, now that 20 plus years have passed, how he thinks about that time and that moment of filming. And he said to me, it feels more scary and more dangerous than it did then. I was like, Abdul, how do you cope with that? And what he texted me was, I unplug as often as possible and try to spend time outside in quiet places. So I'm really happy Abdul is still alive. And this story makes me think about how our relational work of image making is negotiated in these tiny moments in the present that we don't know where they're going, we don't know where the future is going. So I think about all the things that images can do. Images can sometimes bring people joy. I'm happy to announce that Dick Johnson also saw that solar eclipse. For those of you who know my father, Dick Johnson, I love him. I made a film called Dick Johnson is Dead, but Dick Johnson is still alive. I'm thinking, I don't know, cinema is more powerful than I think. I would say sometimes images help us through hard times. Sometimes images make hard times easier. Sometimes, I'm reading, Tabitha's gonna kill me. Images can sometimes save people. You got that? Yeah, she likes it when the words I say match with what happens on the screen. Images can sometimes make people into targets. I'm looking at friends whose names I will not say, because some people in this room live with the pain and difficulty of that. Images can be used as weapons of self-defense, as Gordon Parks describes in his amazing memoir, A Choice of Weapons. Boom! Images can sometimes misrepresent facts, only show what someone wants to see, perpetrate myths, create falsehoods, exclude information, fire the imagination, dispel old ideas, construct meaning, generate new possibilities, reveal more than someone intended, expose abuse, inspire new directions, serve intentions. I'm not even gonna say the other things that images can do. I'm gonna leave that asterisk to you. So, dependent on perspective, aspirations, skills, determination, luck of different people in different bodies, images can do so many things. All right, back to this. So remember the timeline? All right, here we are. So from 2002 forward, the world is watching a lot more than any humans have ever seen before. And from 2007 forward, we're filming with phones. And as you know, if you're a professional camera person, it's very rare that something quite dramatic happens right in front of you. But if you're a human with a phone and you happen to be somewhere when something terrible is happening, you film it. Or you wonder if you should film it. You wonder if it's safe for you to film it. You wonder if you'll get jailed if you film it, right? But those images that were very rare before of terrible things happening are now being filmed because we all have these, right? So the last time I took a flight from Europe, I spent a long time not getting global entry, right? Because I wanted to protect my eyeballs. And I got to the Delta terminal and they're like, walk through, Miss Johnson. And I was like, don't you need to see my ticket? And they said, no, I just need to see your eyeball. I didn't get my eyeball. I know I signed something, right? So increasingly, we are living in a digital panopticon. So I'm just going to say, I'm saying our, because we're all in this together, and also dependent on which bodies we're in, which nations we're born in, which nations we must flee from, etc. All of these things shift, but our eyes, our faces, our images can be monetized, tracked, doxed, surveilled, scraped, branded, name more things. Our phones are tracking devices, right? So these questions, who owns our image? Who's got permission to be doing this? Did we already sign away our rights to our eyeballs to Delta without knowing it? Our agency, right? All of these are at play. These are the stakes. So yeah, life sucks. For each of our bodies in many different and unequal ways, right? We all know this. We know it from the perspective of our own bodies, living in them. We know it from the perspective of loving people who live in different bodies than ours, right? So we're all canaries in the coal mine. The world can look at everything being filmed everywhere all the time. So what's happening to our relationship to the present moment? Right? It's one thing when I'm standing in the moment with Abdul and Michael, watching very attentively as time expands while Abdul bites his lip. I can move a little bit, I can move a little bit, I can look up at the sky, I can look around me in that moment. All of us right now can be in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of present moments like that are happening right now to many people's bodies all around the world, right? That's what's happening right now. So set up reveal. Where am I taking this? So I'm just gonna say, like, you saw that eyeball that I drew in 1983. I've been really trying to pay attention for a really long time. And of course, blind spot. Why? Because I have a human head, right? I can see in this direction. I can see over here. I can turn around. But I can't see in all directions all the time, right? And I've been spending a lot of time thinking and noticing what is happening to young camera people all around the globe because they are holding cameras and filming. And it's made me increasingly concerned and loving towards their bodies and the positions in which their bodies are going because they have cameras, right? So that, I've been really trying to pay attention to that. What's happening all over the world? What happens when this person films in this place? What are the risks that they're taking? And then, of course, I got blindsided by the present. So AI doesn't have a body, right? So how can you understand the stakes of what it means to be in a body if you don't have one? So I went to OpenAI, like all of us are sort of starting to get into this and play around, and I asked the image generator model DALL-E 3, will you please make a poster of my film camera person? Aren't I adorable? You know, I didn't tell it that I feel like I'm on the biodigital continuum, that my eyesight has been augmented by being able to zoom in and see you in close up or see a wide shot. I didn't tell it that people stay in my mind, that Abdul's lip is still in my mind, right? I didn't tell it that I had hair. I asked it again, please. So of course, it assumed, look at that. Look at me holding that camera on top of my head, my metal head. You know, in my body, a lot of things are going on as I age. Apparently I have 5 collapsed discs in my back. Don't know whether that's from having twins at age 46 or camera work. This really cute little bone spur knob on my right shoulder. But I can tell you, I could not carry that camera on my head like that. So I was like, you know, can you decenter me? I don't really feel like I'm the center of camera person. Ooh. I was like, really? Okay, nice. Yeah, I'm really appreciating that all of your Sudanese people, we can't see their faces because of the exposure. And I'm decentered, but oh, yeah, I am white, and I'm still the most important thing in the picture. So I said, can you have the people that I'm filming be in relation with me? Oh, this is cute. How about that relationship? I think we're all pretty familiar with these kinds of images, right? So I said, can you please make it a little less colonial? And it took away my camera and gave me a hijab and called me Camera Perun. But we are all looking at all of you, right? A lot of eye contact there. So then I said, okay, I would love it if you would make Camera Person in the style of Saul Steinberg because I really love the way he thinks. And it told me, Saul Steinberg's estate is protected. Nice. Then I said, can you make it in the style of John Hartfield, the collage artist I love so much? Sure. His estate isn't protected. And I've become a camera prison now. And I love the eye. I love my 3 legs, kind of tripod-like. So then I got a little excited, and I was like, oh, Russian constructivism. Yes. And, you know, I was very excited. It just got orange without me telling it that I love orange. I love the film festival that this participates in it. I'm like jazz squirrels. And just so many good things are happening in this poster. I love it. So then I said, can you please do it in the style of Malik Sidibé, one of the greatest photographers of all time? And because I was photographed by Malik Sidibé. And Malik Sidibé's style is not protected. For those of you not familiar with the style king, Malik Sidibé took this photo, and he took this photo, and he told me, turn around and face your camera towards the future. He also said, I'm tired of looking at people's front sides. I'd rather see your backside. So here went DALL-E 3, Malik Sidibé style. So got the stripes right. Went to the 1920s or 30s, not sure why. And I will tell you, as a camera person who has cramped herself into a lot of uncomfortable spaces, this is what filming film in a car feels like. Are we right? But okay, so what really knocked me out with this image is this, right? Y'all saw that? I love collage, but that's creepy, right? So shell-like toes and a screen for a body, and the visual proof that because AI doesn't have a body, it is not worried about whether our bodies are in pieces, right? So this is my son Felix, and we were playing, and there was a cardboard box, and he's like, "Do you think that can fit on my head, Mom?" And I was like, "Yes." And so he put it on his head, and of course, I was immediately like, "I gotta take a photo," because this moment of play evoked great artists who I love, like Nick Cave, Saul Steinberg, and I was like, "Hold on, Felix, can you breathe?" And he's like, "I can breathe for I can breathe a little bit, Mom." And I was like, "Okay," but luckily I had my phone on me, took the photo, and then because I have a body, and because Felix has a body, and because I love Felix and want him to live, I quickly took the box off of his head. So AI does not understand what it's like to be a body trapped inside a box. And we know there are lots of people in prison around the world who are experiencing that, right? There are lots of people who are experiencing violence that makes them feel like they live in a box, right? So here's the facts, friends. 2023, AI created more images in 12 months than the 150 years of photographic history. Quickly oh God, you just said, I know, it's upsetting. And AI is growing exponentially, right? So more images, this is 2024, more images were generated by typing text into AI models than photographs being taken by humans. This is now. We're talking about a scale that is unprecedented in our 7 million year human existence, right? We really are. So, so someone at OpenAI, Sora, and once again, like, why are they naming all of these after women? And one of the issues for me when I talk to AI over text, I'm like very polite with it. And Tabitha's like, why are you saying please to it? And I'm like, well, once you start like not saying please, you're like, I'm not bald. Like you start talking angry, it changes your own relationship to asking and talking, right? Has anyone ever yelled at Siri, right? So I'm going to show you a 24-year-old Moroccan woman in Marrakesh. Let's see. Oh, come on, technology. AI's like, no, I'm not going to show you. No. You guys can all look this up. There she is. There were no bodies involved in the making of this image except the human who typed 24-year-old Moroccan girl in Marrakesh. Right? There is nothing human in this image. There's nothing human in the AI image generator that made that image. Can I show you it again? Should I just show you one more time? Okay. Do you remember our moment of eye contact? Yeah, I'm wrapping it. Okay, so what's going to happen right now is how many of you have a cell phone? What I'm going to ask you to do, and this is stakes and relationality, I want you to stand back up, Don't do it yet. Listen to my instructions. You're going to stand up, and you negotiate between each other. Is it okay if one of you films the other person for 1 minute? And then the other person's going to film the other person for 1 minute. I'm just saying this might be the last footage of you that exists because you're in bodies. So make use of the moment. All right. So we're going to film because it's time to wrap. We'll do 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds to film each other. Everybody, let's go. Wrap it up, wrap it up, wrap it up, wrap it up, wrap it up. All right, settle down. Okay. Oh, you guys can't stop filming each other. Settle down, everybody. All right, all right. So, I'm so happy. It's so great to be back being human. I'm sorry to interrupt these beautiful moments. Okay. So, life and death stakes. AI does not have a body. So, we're clever people. We all know a lot about living, and some of us know about dying. And you know a lot about images, and you just experienced the preciousness of that moment. Maybe you've negotiated who keeps that footage, whether that footage you just filmed is going to get deleted, right? So I want you to remember that AI doesn't have a body, but we do. Woo! There's only one of each of our bodies. And I am asking all of us, with the things that we make, with the choices that we're making with our life in these times, how can we create Trojan horses that are going to move through the digital panopticon to build more safety for all bodies? Oh, you guys, you're very touching. So we are just really take it in on the timeline. This has never happened before in human history. Lots of things happening in the world right now have happened in some form, but this particular moment is unprecedented. It's our challenge to see and meet the moment. I'm going to leave you with the fact that life also doesn't suck. It really doesn't. It's ours to make meaning of being in our bodies, of the time that we're in, to imagine and ask, what are the stakes for other people? And we know some of these stakes right now, but there's a lot that's unknown. So go look in the reflections of this world and inside of your own bodies with each other. And let's go forward together into the future.